Welcome back to the Tracy Take. Today, Ryan and I, we will be doing a 2021 season review of the Baltimore Ravens. But before we get into that, Ryan and I, we would like to tell you about a little goal that we have of getting to 400 subscribers by draft day. So if you have not already subscribed and this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button, like this video, comment on this video, let us know your thoughts on Ryan and I's, thoughts on the season. I could have phrased that a little bit better, but that's okay. Let me know about my mustache. Yeah. I like it. My wife, it's okay, but who cares what she thinks? And share this with your video friends. And Ryan, let's get into this. Probably, not going to lie, that was one of my better intros to the video, if I do say so myself. I think the coffee is kicking in. Unfortunately, we are recording at 8:30 at night, so I will be up all night doing these videos with you, my brother, from the same.
Yeah, I did not drink coffee, so I don't know if that would be the case.
I don't think I drank coffee. I'm trying to, maybe my coffee from like 4:30 at work, so I had like another hour left. Yeah, I think it's all kicking in. But you know what coffee was not working this in most recent memory?
Wow.
The coffee in the secondary break room for the Baltimore Ravens. They really struggled this year with the worst pass defense in the league. So that's going to be one of the things that I think will probably just kind of start out where now they were decimated with injuries, I would say, just kind of.
I was just about to say.
Yeah.
I hope they didn't share the same coffee pot as the athletic trainers because they were working long hours this season.
Very long hours, yeah. And so, but they're getting most of their guys back. I think when it comes to free agency, they're losing Jimmy Smith that I saw, which seemed like one of the more notable guys. But I mean, he's 33. I'm trying to remember. I didn't see him too high on the stat sheet. Maybe he got some playing time. Ooh, excuse me. But it feels like all the flaws from the Ravens this year started with just injuries, even on the offensive line. They were second to last in sacks allowed on the offensive side of the ball. But losing Ronnie Stanley for a majority of the year is going to be absolutely killer to that offensive line, especially one that's so run heavy. And then when they do run, when they do pass the ball, there's a little lack of protection there. But Ryan, what do you think the Ravens did well in this season?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the thing that sticks out is run defense. They had the number one run defense in the NFL. Calais Campbell up there really did a good job. And then Odafe Owe, one of their rookies, had 5 sacks, but he was also definitely a contributor in the run game. And I just really think that like that front 7 is still a fairly solid unit. And it was actually also one of the units that stayed relatively healthy throughout the season. And then lastly, as usual, Justin Tucker was pretty
legendary,
much phenomenal every single year. Kicking a 66-yarder. I want to say he was like 50. I think he was like 53 of 54 or something on the season.
Team MVP for sure. 100%.
Yeah. And
I mean, breaking records, especially against the Lions.
Breaking records on game-winning field goals kicks,
Yeah, especially against the Lions, too. You couldn't really ask for probably like a more like romantic way to break a record, I would say. I'm sure there's more ways. But, I mean, it's just funny. It's just funny that it was against the Lions. Legendary. That's one of those records that will probably never be broken. I mean, because he has the biggest leg in the league, and it literally hit the bottom of the crossbar and it barely went over. Like it couldn't have been more perfect, essentially.
Also, too, they did a sports science episode about it. I'm not sure if it's sports science, but somebody on YouTube did something like the physics that were involved in that 66-yard kick were very lucky in his favor. Physically, you cannot kick a ball much further without rupturing ligaments and things in your knee. So anyways, for me, that was it. For the good. For the bad, kind of like what you said, everything to me started with injuries. They were the 32nd ranked pass defense, but they were just absolutely decimated. Marcus Peters got hurt in the beginning of the year, and then Marlon Humphries got hurt about halfway through. And then injuries just continued to pile up. So at one point, they had Brandon Stevens playing safety because their starting safety got hurt. So It was just an injury-riddled season. And I think bringing those guys back solves a lot of their issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing to add kind of on the good, and it's just interesting commenting on the run offense for the Ravens because we know how well Lamar Jackson can run the ball. But I was looking at the stats, and they got 1,000 rushing yards and 11 touchdowns between Devontae Freeman and Latavius Murray, two guys that were out of their prime and were kind of last-second calls just because of their major injuries to J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. And that was, I would say, a good sign to see, just because even then with a decimated offensive line, decimated running backs, they're still able to produce 1,000 yards of rushing with guys that are out of their prime. And to me, that just goes the scheming that they do have, especially when it comes to running the ball and the game plans that they have, are successful. It doesn't seem like didn't matter who was in the backfield. And that's going to be, I think, pay huge dividends moving forward when J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards to come back, which is a much more dynamic running pair than Devontae Freeman and Latavius Murray. One of the things for me that probably I would say could it'd be interesting to kind of see how they improve on, but it'd just be in the passing game. I've had my critiques of Lamar Jackson in the past, and he had through 12 games, 2,800 passing yards, 16 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and a rating of 87. And now he did have 767 rushing yards with 2 touchdowns, but their offense reminded me a lot of the Philadelphia Eagles, where it's very run heavy. Yeah. And the Eagles were the number 1 team in the league. And then passing-wise, they had a solid receiver and a solid tight end option. But other than that, that was it. And then a QB that can run and scramble and improvise. Now, Lamar Jackson's way better at improvising than Jalen Hurts. But if Rashad Bateman can develop into that solid number 2 that can go across from Marquise Brown, or if they can go and add another solid 1B or solid number 2 type receiver to go along with that trio, because Sammy Watkins is hitting the free agent market. I don't think they'll bring him back. That I think would be a great addition, and they don't have that much cap space to work with, so with a projection of about $10 million before they make any moves or any extensions or anything like that. So I do think that's something that they can improve on, because when these running backs come back, if they can make that offensive line healthy and bring in just one extra receiving weapon, this offense could be extremely deadly, especially now it's going to be in the division with a solid defensive fronts. Actually, every team they play has a solid defensive front, so running the ball is going to be difficult against these teams.
And they all have really good edge rushers, and that's kind of where I think you hit on this talking about the running game, but the interior of that offensive line was definitely the strength of it, and where they, in my opinion, where they really lacked, especially after Ronnie Stanley got hurt, was the tackle position. To me, just wasn't there, and I think if they can get an upgrade at left tackle, I think the passing game definitely improves. This is a very deep receiving class. I think that they can get somebody 3rd, 4th, 5th round possibly, that they can come in and kind of plug and play. I think Rashad Bateman, they're hoping, is the number 1, and Marquise Brown is the number 2, because I think Marquise Brown is more of a specialty player. I think he's the kind of the speed threat, whereas Rashad Bateman is definitely somebody that can you can put one-on-one and he can run routes at all levels of the field. So I really think the Ravens are in a good position going forward. To me, with the way that the Browns played this year, I would put the Ravens as the 2nd best team in that division, behind the Bengals, because you got to think they're going to come off with some momentum after that postseason run. And so I like in the direction that the Ravens are going. I just think that they may need to just polish a few things off so that they can come back to being a contender.
I agree with that. And so But yeah, so just kind of lastly, what do you think that they need to address in the draft moving forward? Some things that some key pieces
Yeah.
entering into the offseason.
So, like you said, they have limited cap space. So I think signing guys isn't necessarily going to be too much of an option. But I would like them to really address that tackle position, even if they just get a young right tackle or a solid left tackle. I think at 14 you're going to have a few options that are available, leading the way with Trevor Penning. I doubt Charles Cross, Akim Ekwonu are going to make it past the Panthers and the Giants. I think those guys that's their floor because they're good players. They're top 10 caliber players, and those are 3 picks in a row that are going to be definitely targeting offensive line pieces. So I think Trevor Penning is probably a piece that they're looking for. And if they don't like value there, Kenyon Green has fallen down some boards because his combine wasn't as good as some people would have hoped. But if not, I think round 2 there's going to be a very rich bunch of middle second round tackles, kind of starting with Daniel Falele, the kid from Minnesota, and just kind of going on. Zion Johnson is a guard center who could be going into first round into beginning of the second round. So I think that there's an embarrassment of riches at the offensive line position. And I think that the Ravens are primed to take advantage of a left tackle in this draft.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was thinking the same thing with offensive linemen, but I also could see, depending on if they could go get a Zion Johnson or maybe Trevor Penning falls or the Daniel Falele that you just said from Minnesota. They could also, depending on the cornerback situations, if some cornerbacks fall, take some of those guys and address some weaknesses and maybe add some depth there as well. I really think that they're just going to be in the best player position, especially sitting there at 14th spot, on who they think is going to be able to come in and impact most on day one.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's a good group for them because I think it's pretty rich at every position except quarterback, and they're not one of those teams that's going to be quarterback chasing. So, but other than that, I think that is going to do it for this episode of the Tracy Take. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. We are trying to hit 400 subscribers by, I almost said Super Bowl weekend, not Super Bowl weekend, draft weekend. So if you guys could help us reach that goal, we'd be very appreciative. But other than that, we will see you in the next episode.